All right. Well, the wonderful Elizabeth, welcome to the Legal Dispatch podcast. This has been a long time coming. Known you for quite some time and chatted lots, and I've been super excited about this conversation we're going to have today. Welcome.
Thank you for persevering. Likewise, I'm really excited to have this conversation. We've spoken about so many topics, right? It's in the past, so it'll be interesting to see how you weave them together.
Yeah. Excellent. Maybe just to begin with, for the audience, maybe you could just do a little introduction. Tell us who you work for and what you do essentially. Do you want to start? Should we start there?
Yeah, we can start there. I like to take it back a couple of years. So I started my career as an insurance lawyer, acting for the insurers. So I'm definitely going to hell. Like all of the lawyer jokes apply. And I was working at a big law firm in Johannesburg. And this was around about 2008. And we got this new piece of legislation called the Consumer Protection Act, which has sort of plain language provisions in it. And I started thinking about, what if all of these people whose claims I'm rejecting understood their policies? Boggles the mind. And then I left Big Law and I did a master's in behavioural economics and plain language. And after that, I started my own consultancy, mostly focusing on translating complex documents, mostly contracts, actually, into understandable language. And then of late, I've also added sort of the wellness for lawyers angle, to our little corner of the world. So we do law, information design, we say no bullshit, legal services with a bit of fun.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, just for the audience, do you want to explain, in plain terms, what plain language is, and how it applies to contracts? It's quite an interesting topic, including like the fair patterns and dark patterns and things like that.
Yeah. There's an interesting. I mean, I'm like a chameleon. I shed, or I change colors very, very often. So one of the areas of expertise that I've tried on the last couple of years was privacy law, because there is this interesting intersection between privacy law, just as sort of the regulatory topic that everybody knows, and then how we use behavioral science, how we use language in order to essentially trick people into giving us their data, which obviously ethics and all of that. So plain language in very simple terms is helping your audience understand the information that you're giving to them, to find what is relevant to them, and to help them understand what they must do with that information. And it has obvious application in consumer-facing documentation, so terms and conditions. At the moment, I'm working on a returns policy. Privacy notices are also a good example of that. And in South Africa, all of those types of documentations, or any legal notice required by law, has to be in plain language. Quite recently, ISO, the International Standards Organization, also issued a plain language standard. It's something that has been around since about the 70s. It started in America, where they started forcing government organizations to communicate in plain and understandable language. And then it's also got application in business to business contexts, and that was actually what my master's was about, was to make the point that companies or organizations can't read. It's always a person reading a document. And what the research has shown is that legalese is just as hard to understand for lawyers than it is for lay people. And if you think of a contract primarily as a way of helping people work together, it's really important that everybody is on the same page. So that's basically what plain language is. It's just making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, I think between the two of us, we must have seen some incredibly poor language in contracts in our time. And
horrendous.
Nowadays, I kind of just find them hilarious. because
Yeah.
they're almost oxymorons and turning themselves upside down and just putting
Yeah.
words in contracts that just don't need to be there. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely a worthy cause. You've always striked me as someone that can take I think you're the number one person I know that could take a dry topic like contracts, or I think when we first met it was LIBOR, and somehow make it exciting. I don't know where you get that passion for, or what what drives you in that way, but could you kind of talk a little bit about why it's important to put energy behind these dry topics, and also I guess muster some some excitement to make things change in that area? Like, where does that stem from?
That's a very, very good question. So, there's a personal answer and a sort of professional answer, and then there's the spiritual answer, right?
Yeah.
So,
So let's start with the personal answer.
So I mean, I'm a bit of my go-to sort of way of making life fun for myself is humor, as you would have noticed. So we
Yeah.
coined kind of the hashtag fun law, which has taken off a bit. It doesn't just relate to injecting humor into serious topics. For me, it is about taking things that are very important. So firstly, understanding what is really important,
Yeah.
and then making it intriguing or interesting or appealing or delightful or sometimes scary. Sometimes I amp up the fright part of it,
Yeah.
But anything I can do to get sustained attention from people, which has gotten harder and harder over the years, right? So
Yeah.
for me personally, it started off as a way just to make the repetitive tasks in law a little bit more bearable.
Yeah.
I was a litigation attorney, in insurance law, and it was really depressing.
Yeah.
And it started off as a way of just finding meaning. For me, litigation was fun. It was a bit like an extreme sport.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you got the feeling that no one is winning. And I started looking at things like boilerplates. And because typically, like what a lot of people don't realize is the most litigated clauses are those boilerplates, the thing at the end of the agreement, right? That nobody reads or redrafts or thinks about until something goes wrong. So time bar clauses, like you can only bring a claim within a certain period, or like non-variation clauses. Most litigated clause, globally, and often because people are trying to find a way to say, well, we actually agreed something else, and then you go, oh, time bar clause.
Yeah.
And no one reads them. So I found that I have to be a little bit outrageous. And I just basically want people to stop having to go to court. Just, have relationships that last.
Yeah.
It has economic value. If I do the consumer work, it gives people back some dignity in contracting.
Yeah.
It's really just, for me, it's about trying to make people's lives better and making my life better in the process.
No, it's amazing, and I tip my hat to you.
Yeah.
Like, what does the day in the life of Elizabeth look like? What's an average day? And I know maybe there isn't an average day, but what are your habits? And what does a day look like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm giggling at that question because I've had a very, very busy couple of weeks. So I also go through, just like any professional and lawyers specifically, I go through these times where I don't get to have my ideal day.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that are important to me. So reading is kind of like my therapy. I try and do some reading first thing in the morning. I try to get moving. You and I both like waves and hills and things you can charge. I love that word, by the way, charging. Charging for me is like, so I like to get outside. I live in Cape Town, so it's wonderful outside. So So that is something that I try and do whenever I can. My days are full and varied. Lately, I spend a lot of time training and teaching and mentoring lawyers.
Yeah.
So the other thing that drives me, and again, that's that personal reason, is, you know, to help lawyers with their mental health issues in the industry is absolutely rife, and it has to do with, I think, a feeling of a lack of meaning or connection to meaningful work. So I try and help lawyers to find that again, whether it is through teaching them how to write in ways that are compelling to their clients or their colleagues, or whether it's one-on-one mentoring. So I do quite a bit of that every day. I try to. I do a bit of writing every day. As I said, the last couple of days I've been writing a returns policy for a big online retailer, which is a hell of a lot of fun. I get to spend time with people who are from other disciplines, like information designers and graphic designers and change managers. So we're a very eclectic little, I call them my merry band of misfits.
Your little outfit.
We draw.
I've been fortunate enough to meet a few. What about your morning rituals? Like, you know, do you have any? Are you a coffee person? Do you wake up? Do you go for a walk? Like, I'm interested to kind of know what your morning rituals are.
So I'm an introvert masquerading as an extrovert. A lot of people find this really difficult to believe. So I recently saw a quote which I thought, yeah, that's true. Is my alone time is for your safety. So the key to my morning rituals is to spend some alone time first thing in the morning. That means getting up before my girls do. So I normally feel that either by doing something physical, like going for a hike or going for a surf, or if I don't feel like, you know, doing something physical that day, just sitting outside and reading a little bit first thing in the morning. I'm not big on meditation. I wish I were. I'm a bit too restless, I think. So for me, it's always one of those two things, and then we have some good family time first thing in the morning. I have two children, and then the day starts. But that quiet time is super important.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I am surprised to hear that you're an introvert, but I actually know a few with incredibly big personalities that are the same as well. Like, and that alone time is quite important, and maybe that's kind of your key to keeping well mentally as well. So obviously,
it shows. I have a couple of other things. Like, I find I'm a huge proponent, and I'm very privileged, obviously, that I can do that. But I do therapy. I have this is the other thing that people find really surprising about me, is that I have depression, and I have had it for about a decade, and but I do believe that I don't see it as a disease, really. Like, my psychiatrist 10 years ago told me, your depression cures you, and to that I swore at him because I thought that's a stupid thing to say, but I understand now, like, what he meant. Because I think it's a bit of a superpower, actually.
I was just about to say, it sounds like a superpower.
You have to be so careful. But all of the warning signs, that I get, it forces me to be mindful, which is also essential if you're going to, in order to make really boring stuff interesting, you have to be really, really interested in, like, the meaning behind things. And that it's almost a form of professional mindfulness. Like, I go, like, what makes this thing compelling? Like, what makes a non-variation clause interesting?
And
you'll find
absolutely.
it. Pathologically curious.
Excellent. What about, I'm always really interested, either the internal conversation or the conversation you had with your partner that made you decide to become an entrepreneur? Like, what was the tipping point? I know kind of, there's probably some unrest in terms of your soul about kind of what you were doing in that kind of insurance capacity, and, maybe not, not
Yeah.
giving the best out to the world. But what was the exact point and the conversation that you had, and when did you decide to kind of,
Yeah, you're making it sound really deliberate. Um,
yeah,
like,
dive deep into it and become and start a business essentially.
well, at the time when I left the big law firm, and I think this is a very common story, I was actually properly burnt out. So I'm also a very, very competitive person. So I found the whole setup of billable hours and everybody's competing, to get the most billable hours or make your budget the fastest. Um, it's that typical thing that happens, you've got A-type personality in a competitive scenario. I'll go until like, so it wasn't quite as considered maybe as I make it out to be. At the time, I already started having this sort of inkling that there might be a better way of thinking about the law, not just in terms of when things go wrong, how do we litigate? It was very interesting to me, but like I had this sort of restless feeling, and then I went to UCT, the University of Cape Town, and for me, a new world opened up. So even though I studied information design, so the communication aspect of it and information architecture and visualization, that was always interesting to me. But the world really opened up for me when I started reading about behavioral economics and decision theory and how people process information. I'm obsessed with brains and why they work the way they do. So when I read a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, and shortly after that, a book called Nudge by Sunstein and Thaler, and that just changed for me how I saw like what it is to be a lawyer.
Blink
And then
is a great book.
it's awesome. It's awesome. Nudge is also fantastic. And then I just started getting clients. I was teaching at the university, but I started doing some consulting work. So that was quite a soft, entry into entrepreneurship. It got a bit harder after a while. But I don't know. I like the freedom.
What were the hard bits?
Cash
Why
flow,
did it get
man.
hard?
The cash flow will kill you.
Yeah.
It has ups and downs. It was almost impossible to do on your own. Like I have a lot of respect for sole practitioners. I think it's very, very hard. And you have those sort of ebbs and flows of work. But it's also very lonely. So for me, things started changing when I stopped working just for myself as a sole practitioner, and I started taking on partners and then taking on juniors and running a business. That was hard initially. We're not trained for that.
Yeah. Well, how many years ago was this?
This was sort of 2016, 2017. We got a big client right off the bat, but then all of your eggs are in one basket. So when that project was over, I had to, we didn't even have a website. I wasn't on social media. I didn't know the first thing about how to go get a client, and, you have a payroll and it's going to run. So that was repeatedly jumping off a cliff and growing wings on the way down, right?
Building the plane while you're flying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Like for me, I get restless. So, it's nice. I have the freedom to reinvent the business whenever I feel like it.
No, that's great. I think you're in such a sweet spot because you definitely can pivot quite easily because your topics are quite broad, and but still I know you were heavily involved in LIBOR and things like that, which is obviously still connected to the true north that you're kind of still talking about, but you're still able to kind of take on interesting and varied kind of topics under that kind of true north umbrella almost.
I mean, essentially there's no problem that doesn't interest us in some way, shape, or form. You know, in that way, we're almost more like management consultants, although that's a bit of a swear word, I suppose. But you know, people come to us with problems that other people couldn't solve, and then we try and really be creative and innovative by the different sort of problem solving techniques that we bring, the different sort of design techniques that we bring. And you know, my favorite day of the month is when we have our book club, because like it doesn't matter. The other day, for instance, I did a whole training session with lawyers about writing, but I used quotes from a book on potty training that one of my colleagues was reading, because like that's just what innovation is, right? It's putting weird ideas together because they work.
I can see the parallel. Like it's a very simple instruction on how to go to the toilet when you're a little kid, which essentially is probably as plain language as you potentially going to get, right? Like so yeah, what a wonderful analogy.
Yeah,
I'm sure you probably had a lot of fun with that. Well, what
I
about?
I don't know if they did, but I did, and that's all I care about.
What about if you were asked to give a TED talk on an area that is not in your speciality, or something outside of of your main area essentially, and it can't be stealing pens? What do you think that topic would be, and why?
Slime mold.
Slime mold.
Yeah.
Please explain.
Really? No. So slime mold, it's a single cell organism. It's beautiful, by the way. You can go Google it and you'll see the most amazing images. And basically, what slime mold, there was this experiment many years ago. I think it was the city of Tokyo wanted to optimize their travel sort of system. And what they did was they took and they put little slime mold likes oats. They put little sort of nodules of oats exactly the same distance apart as the sort of big business hubs in the city. And then they dropped the slime mold in the middle, and then they watched it grow. And they could plot the most efficient route, and they redesigned their transport system following the patterns that was created by this single cell organism. And
that is amazing.
It is amazing. Like there's a video of it growing. Like it's absolutely amazing. And like what I find really interesting is this idea of collective intelligence. And I suppose you'll probably find slime mold fans amongst people who are developing really sophisticated AI. But it's also a nice metaphor for how people learn. Hive intelligence, which I think is sort of an underutilized concept in businesses and in law firms. Just figuring out how to get people to work together is interesting to me. I don't know if that would be my TED talk. I suspect someone's already done a TED talk on slime mold. I mean,
I think I'm going to go Google that. It's weird, like this week I interviewed Andy Wishart, the founder of Contract Express as well.
Yeah.
And we were talking about weird hobbies. And he was talking about how his one is he's obsessed by laundry. And I was chatting to him about it because I've just finished up a leadership course where I was, fortunate enough to be in a group with some amazing people, and one of them was the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, and after they won the NBA, he was talking about, everyone was going and celebrating in the streets, and the team did the parade and stuff, but he went and mowed his lawn. And and he's obsessed by lawn mowing, so he listens to lawn mowing podcasts, etc. So it's amazing how these you know, I don't want to, I think you'd be happy with the terminology. Eccentric entrepreneurs have these awesome.
I've been called worse.
Yeah. I'm sure you have. And you have these awesome, you know, not hobbies, but like just interests, I would say.
I think we have the ability, but again, it's that curiosity, isn't it?
It's curiosity, isn't it?
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm always thinking, you know, we're talking about it. Like, I'm always thinking when I'm reading something, like how can this help me with the problems that I'm seeing? Like, I'm a big fan of analogous thinking. So thinking, how is this like this problem? You know, on this returns policy, for instance, the client asked us to benchmark with other online retailers, and the returns policies were universally shit, which is a legal term.
Yeah.
Right. And I said
So you could say that in your benchmarking study.
Yeah, it's universally shit. If people are having better experiences with their returns at another online retailer, it's in spite of their returns policies, not because of it.
Yeah.
And then we all of a sudden we started thinking, okay, but like reverse logistics, what else has got that sort of characteristic? So we started benchmarking in insurance. We start benchmarking in like travel. We start benchmarking anywhere that has the characteristic of, I'm going to give you something back and you're going to give me my money back. Like, I think it helps. I think that's why entrepreneurs are the way they are. So they're always looking for how this thing can help me with this other thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm kind of the same as well. I mean, I read a lot as well, but you can take inspiration from anything, from movies, from watching, you know, going to a nice restaurant, to, you know, checking into a hotel, to, you know, to reading something, to listening to music. Like I'm, you know, listening to lyrics even and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I'm exactly the same. I think our minds think very, very similar.
Yeah, people think we flit between ideas, but it's, you know, we just want to put things together.
Yeah, exactly. What about, speaking of kind of curious people, or, you know, speaking of, you know, individuals anyway, when I say the word successful, who's the first person that comes to your mind, and why?
I've developed an unhealthy obsession with Alex Hamilton from Radiant.
Unhealthy obsession?
Yeah, like I think it's a matter of time before we start a commune and we're in a throuple or something. Like
that would be an interesting commune, because last time I met Alex, he was force feeding me tequila.
Yeah. So I'm a bit obsessed with him and his book called Sign Here, and how he's thinking about this topic of large language models and how we might use it to make contracting better. But I just love how his mind works. I mean, I don't know how successful he is. He looks very successful, but like I find it really interesting how he cuts to just the quicker things, you know. Probably also because it suits me. You know, what he had to say about large language models recently in contracting is that ultimately the thing that matters the most is that you've got short, clear, relevant terms. Which resonates. So I'm a big fan of these thought leaders who put in the work to, you know, to really think hard.
Yeah, what's your prediction on the whole LLM space in terms of large language models and the impact to our industry?
My general philosophy to futurism goes back to Nassim Taleb, who wrote Black Swan and Anti-Fragile. You know, he says no one fucking knows.
Yeah. And if you think you know, you don't.
No, so I think there are certain characteristics that lawyers will need to remain relevant, and I try and teach people those. I think what is exciting to me is that the human skills are becoming more and more important again. So creativity, problem solving, understanding problem solving techniques, curiosity, resilience, you know, adaptability to change. That it's going to change the way we practice, I think that's a foregone conclusion. In any given year, there are probably 20 things that will change ultimately the way we practice. AI is just the one that we focused on last year. It was it was frustrating a little bit. I'm guessing for you as well, because very little of what happened last year was new. And it's sometimes, I think, like what it highlighted for me is we're short on people who think hard. Right? Everybody just
I agree.
we're not thinking hard. Like, why was anybody surprised that LLMs would hallucinate case law if you asked it legal questions? That's how it works. The word probabilistic is the third word in the terms and conditions. So that's why I'm a fan of the hard thinkers, the modern legal philosophers.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think there's still a place for it, but definitely the cognitive, deep thinking, problem solving, it's not there yet. If you want to reference a policy and stick a nice GUI with the ChatGPT in front of it that says, can Tyson and Elizabeth go skateboarding down a hill? Then
my wife says no.
Your mum says no. But you get permission
Mom,
to go surfing.
wife, father, everybody says no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it has changed. It has changed my life for the better. I mean, all of the plain language practitioners will know. I mean, it's made our lives easier because I can feed it a beautifully drafted set of credit card terms, true story, and I can say, can you redraft this in the voice of Dolly Parton? Please don't change meaning. It'll do that in a split second, and it'll do a fairly good job. So it has made certain parts of my job just much quicker. But that decision of what should be in those credit card terms, that's still a human one.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's about a relationship, and it can regurgitate 100 shit credit card terms. But I didn't ask you whether I'm allowed to swear on this podcast. That ship has sailed.
There's no PG setting unfortunately on this one. Great. What about making mistakes? How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for success later on? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
I don't know. I really on the skateboarding topic. I mean, I fell hard, a couple of years ago.
You did.
But that turned out also to be one of my favorite accidents ever. Like, it made for some really interesting thinking around what is it that attracts me to what the psychologist calls like edge work. As anybody who likes slightly dangerous sports will identify with that line of where you're not quite safe. And why I find that exhilarating. I mean, the point that I want to make about failure is I think part of the reason why lawyers are so ill, has to do with two things: perfectionism. This idea that we have to, in order to justify our high fees, we have to be perfect, is a problem. And then there's this sort of you've broken out of it, I'm sure, but there's this sort of institutionalized abuse that we put our juniors through, because we think, it's almost hazing what happens in law firms. You need to be tough, right? And both of those things breed this fear of failure, the fear of the second draft, the third draft, the fourth draft. Feedback becomes scary. I don't see it like that. Like, I see it all as just a giant experiment. With the people I mentor, I try and teach them to be comfortable with saying, I don't know. And all you need to do is add the word yet. I don't know yet. And so that's the one sort of affirmation that I use is I don't know yet, and also this freedom to fail, freedom to suck. I'm just experimenting. This iteration, this draft did not work. I'm going to try it again. It's not a failure. I'm experimenting. I'm trying to see what works, what doesn't work. And when you look at studies of highly successful people, it's not that they don't fail, it's that they fail more frequently and at a quicker rate than other people. I mean, you can go and look at entrepreneurs, you can go and look at artists. They just tried more. Einstein is an example.
Yeah.
He just tried more. And moved
exactly.
on. Just try and move on.
I listen to a lot of Alan Watts, and he's always talking about, if you really want to be good at something, you really need to be with it, and you need to be present with it, and you can't do that if you're, it's probably just like you're saying, it's a much longer route to success, or whatever you call it, to define success as. But if you're not not having that freedom to kind of experiment and make mistakes, I wonder if it's kind of linked a little bit to education, like, even from schooling ages, where you're either right or wrong in a test, to law school, where you're it's almost like a binary answer to a problem, when you're kind of researching matters or regulation and things like that, and then it's all boils down to a test which you either pass or fail, and you get a law degree, and then obviously you get thrown into the deep end with the juniors trained, and so that you have this idea what in your head of what you think is right or wrong, and what is perfect, and it's quite binary, whereas it's not like that in life, really. No. It's much more gray.
And you're taught that it's bad to be wrong. My favorite, one of my favorite authors, Daniel Kahneman, he's kind of like the father of behavioral economics, won a Nobel Prize, goes by Danny Kahneman, which I find very amusing. But anyway, I think it was in an interview with Adam Grant. Adam Grant asked him why he always looks so happy when someone proves him wrong. And Danny said, it's because at that moment, I'm less wrong than before. So true. I'm in the early stages of writing a book, and I've decided to call it Less Wrong Than Before. If you can say you're less wrong today than you were yesterday, you're winning.
Exactly. Well, kind of having that reflection kind of mindset, what advice would you give to your younger self, thinking about the juniors and thinking about, Elizabeth straight out of uni?
Don't take it so seriously.
But you don't.
I used to. I was I wish I didn't get trapped quite so much in that sort of achievement mindset where, you're chasing numbers. I would not tell myself to do anything differently, because I wouldn't be here if I did things differently. I think everything had its role in my evolution, but I would definitely have said none of it matters quite as much as you think. And the minute you sort of make peace with your own sort of relative irrelevance, a lot of the pressure goes away. So I think that's from another. I said to someone, I'm like a mobile library. I'm making book recommendations left, right, and center. If it's annoying, stop me. But it's a book by Oliver Berkman called 4,000 Weeks. If nobody reads any of the books you and I've mentioned, 4,000 Weeks is really kind of, I feel like it's rewired my brain a little bit.
Okay. Well, I really want to join this book club. So maybe we could start. I know we've got the guys in legal who skateboard or surf. We need, and I feel like I'm an honorary member of the ones that steal pens from clients, and then maybe we need another one for that little book club.
We're starting one. We've called the new business Rehabilitated Lawyer. There's definitely going to be a book club. We've just started. Some people call it the Goat Company, because my new obsession is goats. But that's where we really want to get stuck into understanding the reasons behind sort of the wellness crisis in the legal industry, and really I desperately, like, this is like my ikigai, you know, like my purpose in life is I want to keep
Yeah.
the creative people in law because we need them. And at the moment, I don't think we're doing a good job of it to keep the innovators and the entrepreneurs and the creatives in the industry. So I really want to get stuck into that. And I think a book club will definitely help and be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I definitely think you're in the right place, by the way. Like, you are 100% where you should be in terms of the advice to yourself.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what about a theme song? What would be your theme song?
Wow, that's a good one. There's a song by a South African band. I think they're called Sunset Sweatshop or something like that. And there's a song called Coming Along. You know, it's got that typical sort of South African like beat that I'm sure you're familiar with. And
Yeah.
it's just such a nice song, just about like joining a tribe or joining a movement. You know, are you coming along? I'll send you a link to it. Yeah, I think it's Sunset Sweatshop.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
I'd
so
love to
I
hear
often
it.
play it sort of at the end of my keynotes, because like this is the thing that we also say a lot, and we've got stickers that say this is you know, if standing up for yourself burns a bridge, I've got matches, we ride at dawn, you know. Like
Oh, that's brilliant. I love
yeah.
it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm turning into a
Cool.
revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
All right. Well, I mean, just on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for making the time. Lots of tips and tricks, lots of great book recommendations. So we'll be sure to kind of make sure we highlight those ones in the transcript. And yeah, thanks again. It was a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it.
No, agreed. It's the easiest one I've ever done. But we were, as you said, we were overdue. But thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Cheers.